The President Trump tells CBS News that he said to Russian President Vladimir Putin about meddling in their private one-on-one meeting was this.
I let him know we can't have this. We're not going to have it. And that's the way it's going to be.
Okay. The problem is we actually have no idea what the two men said to each other, and that is because the president didn't want anyone else in the room. There's actually only one person, one American, who would know the truth, Trump's interpreter, Marina Gross. She was the interpreter, right, that was sitting right next to him, and there was Putin and his interpreter, and that was it. Tonight, there are growing calls for her to appear before Congress to describe what actually happened. Out front now is Tom Foreman. And Tom, you know, this is a pretty incredible moment here, right? The president is being questioned on his version of things. And frankly, he's being questioned because he has often not told the truth in so many ways. So how likely is it that this interpreter will actually come and testify before Congress? Has it ever happened before?
Well, I think it's not likely at all because it would be, by many accounts, unprecedented for this to happen. Look, there are several reasons why this is an issue. If you want to call her in front of Congress, first of all, it can't just be the Democrats who are upset about this. There are a few Republicans, but they would need more to make such a hearing happen. They're going to have Republican support for this. Secondly, the president would probably have to waive executive privilege because some experts say this clearly would be covered. And thirdly, even if all of this happened, you have to look at the fact that in the past, when interpreters have been called before Congress for any reason by subpoena or into courts, the State Department and the Justice Department have generally vigorously fought the idea of putting these people in the chairs because these are folks who are basically essential tools to presidents. They have to be able to speak freely with interpreters in the room, with people from all over the world. And in fact, if President Trump weren't in such a tight about Russia, probably wouldn't be talking about this. But I think the chance of her hitting the chair, very slim, Aaron.
All right, Tom, thank you very much. And I want to go now to Congressman Eric Swalwell, Democrat from California, who sits on the House Intelligence and Judiciary Committees. Congressman, thanks for being with us. The president tells CBS News that he told President Putin, quote, about meddling, "We can't have this. We're not going to have it. And that's the way it's going to be." Again, that's his exact quote of what he said to Putin about election meddling in that room. Do you believe him?
I don't buy it. And if that's what he said to him in the room, why couldn't he say that to him on that stage when he had multiple opportunities when reporters asked him that question?
So you're saying basically if you said it face to face, you would have been able to say it when you were side by side, both pointing out, right?
It's so convenient that no one, other than the interpreter was in the room, that the president can now say this. So again, I don't buy it. He's got a history of, false statements and misleading the American people. The only way to find out what was said would be to hear from the interpreter. And Aaron, I support that. I don't take it lightly, and I don't think it needs to be a spectacle. I think the Intelligence Committee could bring her in a closed session, but this is an extraordinary circumstance. You have a prior for this president in that he, in the past, with Russians, by himself, gave them divulged national security information, and now you have this concerning report that the president discussed with Vladimir Putin the possibility of turning over an innocent U.S. ambassador to be questioned by the Russians. So there's many reasons to want to understand what was said.
I want to ask you about that first, and then about the serious statement about having this interpreter having to give her version of what happened. You mentioned the Ambassador Michael McFaul, former U.S. ambassador to Russia. As you point out, the White House said Trump is considering the idea raised by Putin, which Trump referred to in that press conference, right? He said that interesting idea. Well, the idea was Russians would get to question some Americans that they really don't like. Bill Browder on that list, and as you just pointed out, Ambassador McFaul. And they're saying that that's on the table, right? That was Sarah Sanders said. What do you say?
Well, the Russians are the suspect in this attack with a lot of good evidence. There's no reason we would open up our evidence files, send our investigators over there to let them review that. That would be like a victim allowing the burglar to set up the home security system. That's ridiculous. And also, again, this is just whataboutism by Vladimir Putin to try and turn the tables and make this great deal maker of a president believe that he's gotten a good deal out of this. But the Republicans in Congress need to stand firm that we absolutely will not tolerate the president even considering turning over a U.S. ambassador. I think if he were to do that, that would absolutely be grounds for removal from office.
Well, I can tell you that the State Department spokesperson, Heather Nauert, today said the idea was completely absurd. And that it wasn't even on the table, right? The opposite of what Sarah Sanders was saying. So there does appear to be a dispute even within this administration now on the issue that you raise. But to the point that this interpreter can solve all of this by saying what really happened in that room. You know, Ted Cruz has raised questions about it. We actually spoke today to an interpreter who has interpreted for 7 different presidents. Harry Obst is his name. He said that interpreters have to swear an oath, Congressman, that they will never disclose classified information, right? And they go in that room wanting to be anonymous, right? Wanting to just be the interpreter. Would you set an incredibly dangerous precedent by forcing this woman, Marina Gross, to say what happened?
It's a very good question, Aaron. And again, I don't take it lightly. As a prosecutor, I worked with interpreters all the time. I respect their profession, what they do. But again, the president here has set precedent by having a private meeting with a leader who ordered an attack against America 3 days after 12 of that leader's individuals were indicted for attacking America. And now we are learning that the president in that meeting has offered or suggested that he would allow that leader who attacked us to interview in Russia a U.S. ambassador. So I'm also, again, concerned that the president may have divulged national security information, and I want to know if our national security professionals are now further at risk because of what the president told Vladimir Putin.
Congressman, thank you.
My pleasure.
And next, the accused Russian agent. Court documents reading like a spy thriller. This is the alleged first time. Maria Butina facing a judge and pleading not guilty to charges of being a Russian agent as prosecutors allege an elaborate web of deception by her to infiltrate GOP politics and create secret back channels with Russia. This includes a romantic relationship with a 56-year-old political operative that they say she secretly complained about and alleging she offered sex, quote, in exchange for a position within a special interest organization. Sarah Murray is out front.
A federal judge ruling today, Maria Butina, the 29-year-old Russian national the government says is a covert agent, will await trial in a jail cell without bond. Butina, clad in an orange prison jumpsuit, watched as the U.S. government argued in a Washington courtroom that her stint as an American university graduate student was little more than a cover for her work with the Russian government. The prosecutor telling a judge if Butina sought refuge at the Russian embassy or got in a diplomatic vehicle, U.S. law enforcement would be helpless to stop her from leaving the country. Butina's attorney argued unsuccessfully that she wasn't a flight risk and insisted she is not a spy.
She's not an agent of the Russian government, the Russian Federation. She's innocent of the charges brought against her.
In the courtroom and related filings today, the government fleshed out Butina's alleged ties to Russian intelligence, even showing the court a photo of Butina near the U.S. Capitol on Inauguration Day, which she sent to Alexander Torshin, the former Russian politician she allegedly reported to. "You're a daredevil, girl. What can I say?" Torshin wrote. "Good teachers," Butina responded. The government also took aim at Butina's romantic ties to a 56-year-old American, saying it was a duplicitous relationship. Her boyfriend, not named in court proceedings, is South Dakota political operative Paul Erickson, according to sources who confirmed their romantic relationship and other activities and details that match those of Erickson. In previous filings, U.S. officials say he helped Butina make inroads with other U.S. political operatives and organizations. The government alleges the relationship was a sham. Documents seized by the FBI show Butina complained about living with U.S. Person 1 and expressed disdain for continuing to cohabitate with Erickson. She also offered to trade sex with another unnamed person for a position with a special interest group, according to the filings. Butina was arrested over the weekend, U.S. officials say, because she appeared ready to leave town. Her lease in Washington was up, and she intended to move money out of the U.S. Her lawyer says he informed the government in June that she planned to move to South Dakota to be with her boyfriend. She pleaded not guilty on charges of conspiracy and acting as a foreign agent.
Now, Butina's lawyer also took pains in court today to try to distance this case from what's been going on with special counsel Robert Mueller's investigation. He insisted that this is not a spy case and that his client should not be treated as a proxy for the very serious issues that are playing out right now between the U.S. and Russia. Aaron.
Sarah, thank you. And after Sarah's report, I want to go straight to the former CIA operative Bob Baer as we try to understand what happened here, what she really did, how significant it was, the allegations, sex for political access, romantic relationship with a political operative, apparently that she said she didn't want to be with. Do these allegations surprise you?
Oh, not at all. What the Russians have done, what the KGB has done, is used her. She's probably a prostitute, run them into political figures, spotting for, let's say, military officers at the NRA. Torsion, her supposed boss, in fact, is a KGB agent. This is typical. It's bold, I'll tell you right now, and the fact that they ran her into the President of the United States in 2016 is just quite amazing. Yeah. But this is typical. I've worked with the KGB. This is the way they do it. Incrimination with prostitutes is a way to recruit people.
I mean, it's incredible. And she was at inaugural events for the president, the National Prayer Breakfast, an NRA convention. I mean, what do you think she was doing there?
She was looking for people to recruit, agents of influence, people with access to secrets. There's a picture of her apparently with a KGB officer at a restaurant in Washington. And she reports back to him, say, look at this guy's vulnerable, he's out of money, or this politician is pro-Russian, let's bring him to Moscow. She was spotting people for recruitment.
Wow. All right. Thank you very much, Bob Baer. And next, breaking news, President Trump speaking tonight about that interview with Bob Mueller. Plus, President Trump says he misspoke when talking with Putin, and he's not alone tonight.
He can speak strongly about Putin in public, but he claims he was strong with him when no one was there to see it or hear it or record it. He can't speak strongly about him in public. To believe this tale of two Trumps, you'd also have to believe that behind closed doors, the president was able to do the one thing he's never been able to do before and still can't tonight. For the last 2 years, he has consistently mischaracterized, questioned, or outright rejected the intelligence community's